Today we'll be reading Little Red Riding Hood. Long, long time ago, there lived a little girl with her mother and father. She was dressed in a pretty little coat and hood that her mother had made for her, so everyone began to call her Little Red Riding Hood. One day, Little Red Riding Hood's mother called her and said, "Little Red Riding Hood, your grandma is very ill. Please take this basket in which has cake and wine." "Okay, mother," said Little Red Riding Hood, and ran to get the basket. "Be careful," said her mother, kissing her. "Don't stray from the path, don't stop on the way, and don't speak to any stranger." Little Red Riding Hood's grandma lived all by herself in a little cottage on the other side of the forest. Little Red Riding Hood has been through the forest alone many times and knew her way, so she wasn't fighting all out. She skipped it merrily along the forest path, enjoying the bright sunshine, the blue sky, and the birds singing in the tree. But suddenly, she met a wolf. "Hello," said the wolf in the nicest voice. "Where are you going at this bright sunny spring day?" Little Red Riding Hood was feeling so happy and cheerful that she forgot all that her mother had said to her about not speaking to strangers. She smiled at the wolf and replied in her pig's voice, "Hello to you as well, Mr. Wolf. I am going to see my grandma, who lives on the other side of this forest. She is feeling very well today, so I am taking her some cake and wine. Maybe that will cheer her up." "Oh dear," said the wolf, still in the nicest voice. "How very sad your grandma is. How very sad your grandma is feeling too well. I shall go and visit her as well. I'm sure she will feel much better if I do." "Oh, thank you, Mr. Wolf," said Little Red Riding Hood. "Well, let's hurry then," said the wolf. "You go this way and I'll go the other way, and let's see who will reach your grandma first." Right after saying that, the wolf vanished into the forest. He ran as fast as he could to reach Grandma's little cottage before Little Red Riding Hood. He arrived at the cottage, huffing and panting, but very pleased to have beaten Little Red Riding Hood to it. The wolf knocked at the door of Grandma's cottage with a gently tap tap. "Who is it?" called Grandma from within. "It's Little Red Riding Hood," said the wolf, making his voice as much like a little grandma as he could. "Dear Little Red Riding Hood," said Grandma, "I'm too weak to open up the door. Open the door and come in." The wolf did as Grandma said and walked into the little cottage. There was Grandma, feeling quite weak and ill, lying in bed under a blanket. The wolf grabbed Grandma and engulfed her in a single swallow. He knew that Little Red Riding Hood would be arriving soon, so he wasted no time but put on Grandma's clothes and the spinning little cap. He covered himself as much as he could with the blanket and lied on Grandma's bed, pretending to be Grandma. Now, Little Red Riding Hood was walking as fast as she could through the forest when all at once she saw a clump of golden flowers growing under a tree a little way into the forest. "Oh, how beautiful," said Little Red Riding Hood to herself. "I'm sure that Grandma would love to have some. Maybe I'll pick up a bunch." Little Red Riding Hood forgot all that Grandma had said about not stopping or leaving the path. She ran into the forest and began gathering a big bunch of flowers for Grandma. By that time, Little Red Riding Hood finished picking up the flower and found her way back into the path again. It was very quite late. "Oh dear," said Little Red Riding Hood. "I completely forgot all about that kind Mr. Wolf. I'm sure he was already been and gone. I do hope to cheer up Grandma." Though Little Red Riding Hood began walking faster and faster, and very soon she came to Grandma's little cottage. "Grandma, open the door. It's Little Red Riding Hood." Knocking on the door. "It's Little Red Riding Hood." "Dear Little Red Riding Hood," said the wolf, pretending to be Grandma, "I'm very weak to open up the door. Open the door and come in." Little Red Riding Hood did as the wolf asked to and walked in the cottage. She walked up to the bed and gave Grandma a big hug. "Why, Grandma," said Little Red Riding Hood, surprised, "you look so different today. You must be really ill." "But Grandma," said Little Red Riding Hood, "do you look strong? What big ear you have." Only to hear you better, my dear," said the wolf. "And what big eyes you have, Grandma," continued Little Red Riding Hood in surprise. "Only to see you better with, my dear," said the wolf. "What a big nose you have, Grandma," said Little Red Riding Hood. "Only to smell you better, my dear," said the wolf. "What big teeth you have, Grandma," said Little Red Riding Hood. "That's only to eat you better with," and said the wolf. He jumped out from under the blanket and gulped up Little Red Riding Hood in a single swallow. Now that the wolf felt really sleepy after such a large meal, he decided to take a nap in Grandma's warm, comfortable cottage. He got on the bed and was soon fast asleep, snoring loudly and contentedly. A woodcutter was outside cutting a tree. He heard the sound of the wolf snoring, so very quietly the woodcutter opened the cottage and went in. Oh! Though through the woodcutter judgment by the size of the wolf's tummy, he must have eaten someone. The woodcutter picked up a pair of Grandma's scissors lying on the table and cut open the sleepy wolf's tummy. Out came Little Red Riding Hood and her grandma, breathless and happy. "Oh, thank you for saving us," said Little Red Riding Hood to the woodcutter. "Hurry," said the woodcutter. "Let's gather up some rocks." So they gathered the biggest they could find and put them inside the wolf's tummy. Then Grandma sewed up the wolf's tummy neatly and quietly. In a little while, the wolf woke up. "Oh dear," he thought. "I must be getting old. I can't even eat 2 people without feeling sick." The wolf struggled out of the bed, and that was the last that everyone ever saw him. Little Red Riding Hood thanked the woodcutter and left. Little Red Riding Hood and Grandma sat and enjoyed the cake and wine. As for Little Red Riding Hood herself, she'll never forget her mother's advice again. The end.